Hi, class. Today I'm going to talk about your final paper. So you put a lot of work, and now you come to the end of your journey. And I want to, uh, and your final assignment is you're putting it all together. So what did we do so far? At a big picture level, we tried to get a handle on what is the nature of our economy. How do we assess what's going on? And what kind of policies are usually in place to help manage an economy? So the big picture, we looked at a number of indicators such as inflation, unemployment, budget deficit, trade deficits, um, looking at purchasing managers index, consumer confidence, leading indicators, and we put all of that together to tell the story. Is the economy stable? Is it in a recession? Is it in a depression? Is it expanding? Where is it right now? And then the next level of analysis is there internal balance in this economy, and is there external balance in the economy? How healthy this economy is. So we define internal balance as low inflation, low unemployment, say 2% inflation, 2% unemployment. And we define external balance as you don't have a alarming trade deficit. Like if it's more than 4% of GDP, and there's not a massive outflow of capital leaving this country, and the exchange rate is not dropping. What is an exchange rate? Is basically if a Mexican wants to buy an Apple computer, they have to exchange it for the US dollar to buy it. And the more Mexicans demand the dollar, the higher the value of the dollar goes up. But if it's the opposite, they don't want our stuff anymore, and they want all their investments in the country out of here, then you're going to find the value of the dollar dropping. So that's why you need to look at all these trends in external balance. So what is the nature of internal balance when you look at the indicators? What is the nature of the external balance when you look at the indicators? And then what do you do about it? And this is where you have these economic theories, the free market theories like classical and new classical. It basically say, don't do anything, let the market fix itself. If you want to do something, follow the monetary rule, let money supply grow at the same rate the economy is growing. And then supply side economics, incentives for businesses to expand and have simple, credible policies that everyone understands and can follow. Versus the Keynesians who say markets fail, like during COVID. And that's why, like your car, it may go dead in winter, you need to jumpstart it. And so the way we jumpstart it is through fiscal policy, monetary policy, trade policies, all these different policies that can get the economy to expand. We call it expansionary policies, or pull the economy down to contract. We call them contractionary monetary policies. And so the Keynesians would have a very policy-driven approach, versus the post-Keynesians and the Marxists would say, let's not only do we have to look at market conditions, we got to look at structural characteristics, such as dual labor market. There's a market for all the good jobs and the market for these ordinary Big Mac type of jobs. And the conditions of workers are very different in each of these markets, and we need specific interventions unique to each of these markets. Or the role of big business, how they capture the system and make it work for themselves. Or this whole underground economy, the illegal economy, the drug economy, how that's impacting our economic conditions. So that's how bringing structural gender, race, and other things into an analysis of what's going on. So when you look at internal balance and external balance, you have to have some kind of a policy toolkit. What do you do to bring the economy back to internal balance and external balance? And these theories help us to understand it. So I hope this big picture of what we are doing can help you understand. And if you followed what I said just now and got the big picture, that means you got something. It's very important. You got the big picture. You understand what internal balance and external balance is, and what these different theories are. And now you can go dig deeper and get more details through reading the text, reading other articles to deepen your understanding. So now we come to the final paper. What I want you to do in the final paper is to kind of pull everything together into about a 15 to 30-page paper. You remember you have these elements of risk. So you're introducing a product to a foreign country, and you got to understand: is it going to be a right decision for me? Is it am I going to win or lose through this initiative? So the way I'm going to go about it is to look at different dimensions of risk. I'm going to look at cultural risk. I'm going to look at business risk. Culture, is the culture, people ready for my product? Business, are conditions to open and close a business good for my business? Governance or political, is the government stable so that I can do business? Economic risk, what about internal balance, external balance? How is this country doing? International risk, what's the nature of imports and exports? Is it free? Is it controlled? Is there a lot of regulations? How do I look at it? What's the risk there? What's the risk around exchange rates? Are they going to fluctuate a lot that I lose my money, or how do I need to protect myself for that? And then the product. Okay, I'm introducing this into this country. Who's my competition? What's the size of the market? What is the pricing and profitability that's in the market? And how can I be successful? So I'm going to put everything together to come to a framework. And when I mentioned an analytical framework, remember your graduate level analysis. That's so a difference between a high school student and a college student and a graduate student. A high school student might say, "Oh, I got my pay. I've lost my job. I'm not sure why. It looks like something's going on around us." And in high school, in college, you talk about economic. Oh, I lost my job because the economic is in a recession. And graduate level, you're going to say, "Here, I have a theory about what's going on. And this is my picture, and this is my model of what's the theory that what I think is going on. And I'm going to test my theory with data, and I'm going to report my results, and to make my case based on this theory, based on facts, based on data." That's graduate level analysis. So in terms of this paper, I've asked you to look at an analytical framework, and I'm going to give you an example of that so that it can help you use it. And this is a simple Excel spreadsheet where I'm looking at, on one level, the different kinds of risk. And here's a scale between 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. So as I go to each one of these chapters, I say, okay, I looked at all cultural aspects of risk, and I think I have low risk. I'm looking at business. I'm looking at different aspects of starting and growing a business. I think my risk is a little higher. So each one of this, you're going to give a number based on the data. And then when you go to Excel and you look at, where is it? Insert. In the Insert tab, under Charts, if you go under Charts, you can look at something called a radar chart. So if you click on that, you'll get this kind of a graph, which is interesting because it shows you the scale from 0 to 5, right? So 5 is high risk and 0 is low risk. You can see visually where there's a high risk areas, where there's low risk areas, and this will help you come to an overall conclusion. So you are going through each one of these areas. At the end, you're saying, here's my analytical framework to study this risk. I'm using a radar chart. I'm assigning a level from 0 to 5. And based on each of these analyses, I've given an assessment of risk. And based on it, you can see I have moderate level of high risk in certain areas and low risk in other areas. And my overall conclusion is I am going to wait a little bit and not go into this country just yet. Or I have less risk, I'm going to go into this country. So that's an example of an analytical framework. Very simple one. You can use others around. Now, what I'm going to show you is a sample paper that someone wrote. So it gives you a sense of what, how a good paper is. Now, keep in mind, this paper is 30 pages. It doesn't have to be 30 pages, but I will give you an example of when I looked and read this, I said, ah, what a good paper, right? So when I look an abstract, right? And then this paper doesn't have it, but a table of contents is important, right? Make sure you do, and very easy to put a table of content. Each time you go to a heading, if you choose one of these, like heading level 1, for instance, and then when you go to put a reference here and table of contents, it'll all pull out all the heading 1 columns into a table of contents. So that's the most easiest way to do that. So you have an abstract, at least a page, gives you a summary. Here's what I'm studying. Here's where I'm going to do it. And here's what I found out. In general, should be your abstract. So the reader who reads it can grasp the big picture of your paper, so that when they go into your reading it, they always have this anchor in which they can read it. You're helping them read your paper better by giving a good summary. So what's the introduction? I'm going to look into coffee. I'm going to look into this country where I want to introduce coffee into Kenya in this particular paper. And here's my cultural risk analysis. This person did a very sophisticated paper. I just want to explain what they did. They said, okay, 3 is my threshold for risk. If anything goes over 3, I'm not going to go there, right? So they have 2 kinds of graphs, one with the risk threshold and where it is. It's fancy. You have to figure out how to do this fancy stuff, but the simple one is okay too. But you look at how he put all those dimensions of cultural risk into the paper, which I thought was pretty good, but also had his own table of instead of cut and paste is a bad idea in a graduate level paper. You have to do your own table. So what this person did was he gave me permission to share his paper. His name is Tariq. So you look at business risk, again, another beautiful graph showing all the different levels of business. You don't have to do it this way, but this one for sure you need to do is having a table with the different levels of risk. And then going through every one of these areas with a table, and make sure when you're doing your economic risk analysis, you're going to make sure that you have, if every other risk is 2 pages, this has to be 4 pages. Because I want you to talk about internal balance and external balance. I want you to talk about economic strategy, what policies they're doing right now, what they need to do. It's very important for you to get a good grade to have those elements there. The table with the graph, and then finally, international risk and product risk, and then the final conclusion. Look how well he's done all the different elements of risk and provided that final conclusion. So it was a pleasure to read this paper and to see how he was creative in doing something and took the trouble and the thing to tie it. And then I look very carefully at the references. I look at to see, so where did they find the information? Where is the journal? Journal of Human Resource Bank, good. World Bank, good. Good source. Federal Reserve Bank, good source. International Monetary Fund report or whatever, good source. Government studies, good source. So I'm going to be looking and seeing this, because I just don't want newspaper articles and things as a good paper. And that's how your final paper looks like. So I hope that example will help you understand what a good paper is. I really get excited and appreciate when I see a good paper. And so I hope all of you can get to this stage, and I know you can. Just a matter of putting time and effort. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I always have this open door policy that if you send me your draft, say that previous weekend, to look at, I will read your draft and give you feedback whether you're on the right track or not. Because I prefer to help you before grades out, and after, what's the use, right? It's already graded. So I'd like you to do well. and all of you can do well. I appreciate the effort you've been putting in. I've seen people putting a lot of time and effort to learn a new subject. Thank you for doing that. And I'm here to help you. Email, sending me drafts, or whatever way that makes you learn better. So we're in this together, so do well. Talk to you soon. Bye.